Happy Pride Month, everyone! I figured now is as good a time as any to talk about my own journey of being gay because, and this may come as a shock to y'all, I'm hella gay. I was in the 6th grade when I began to question my sexuality. I did this because I ventured into the internet beyond the safety of browser-based online kids games and YouTube videos. I remember asking my friends what they would do if they found out they were bisexual or lesbians. Most of them didn't respond positively to that. In fact, I think one girl said that she'd kill herself and then accused me of being a lesbian, which wasn't far off at the time. Not that I had really gotten that far yet. But that's kind of to be expected. I grew up in a small town in the South with a bunch of churches and Jesus. I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time, specifically Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and that's how I discovered the world of gay shipping, that and some roleplay that I ended up doing, not at this exact time. I think that was more 7th grade than 6th grade, but the role-playing was gay and that helped. That whole world of gay shipping sort of opened up my eyes to seeing these people accept these boys being gay, and I was like, wait, I think I like girls. Is that a thing I can do? Yes. So, after some time, making it now about halfway through my 7th grade year, I came out to a friend of mine as bisexual. One friend. Just one. Within the week, everyone knew. Like I said, small town, word got around. It was hell. I was mocked and ostracized. Now, I'd been bullied before. I was always the weird kid who'd once told another student, who happened to be a preacher's daughter, that God wasn't real. But this was worse than I'd ever been bullied. It drove me to harm myself, and I genuinely considered suicide as an option. Keep in mind, since this was 7th grade, I would have been 13 at the time. It was so bad, I began to skip school because I just couldn't stand being around those people. I missed a good 20, maybe 30 days of school in the span of the last 2 semesters. The last 2 semesters being about 5 months, and I missed potentially a month. It's pretty significant for the amount of time. I'd never before been so bullied that I felt like I just didn't want to be there. That skipping school was a better option than facing everyone. I'd always had friends who made it easy to brush off that other people didn't like me, but it was that one friend who I came out to who spread it to everyone else that broke that trust in those friends. I don't know why it was all of them, but it never felt right, again, to interact with those people. I tried to be brave. I put it on my Facebook account that I was bisexual, like that would help. It was some kind of shield, like, hey, I accept that this is who I am. It didn't do anything. It really didn't. If anything, it made it worse because people knew it wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was a fact that I was willing to put on my own page. It didn't stop hurting until it just went on so long I got numb. After my parents realized how much school I was missing, they made me talk to the school counselor, who really didn't do anything to help. I remember recounting how I felt like I was being bullied more because of being the gay kid, and it's not that I just felt that way, it was an actual shift in the people around me. Being blocked from going to my locker, being talked about like I wasn't there. It was pretty bad. I don't want to go into every detail for obvious reasons. But, giving her the names of the students that was doing it, she didn't do anything to them. Except maybe a slap on the wrist. I don't actually know. I just know that it didn't help. Those kids were vicious. I was the only gay kid in the grade. in the middle school, really. There were more in high school, as I would come to discover, because that's sort of when everyone's supposed to figure it out. I was just an early bloomer, I guess. But, being the only gay kid made me the perfect punching bag for whatever vicious shit these kids wanted to do to me. They didn't stop with that harassment until well into high school, when they realized that I wasn't the only gay kid. More people were coming out. There were people who were already out in high school. So from there, with that whole debacle that was 7th grade, I kept my thoughts on my gender and sexuality to myself. In 2012, at the age of 14, so 8th grade now, I made a Tumblr account because a YouTuber I watched at the time talked about hers. I can't remember who it was, but I just know I made it because of her. I still technically have this account. Even though I've changed the email and the URL, I still have the archive dating back to the day I made it. Because it was originally attached to my dead name, like the email account that was attached to it was my dead name, and the URL Confessions and Craziness is terrible. At the time, the Tumblr that I saw wasn't the hellfire pit of discourse that it is these days. Back at that time, there was a lot of Doctor Who, and it was the height of Homestuck, and there was talk of genders that I'd never heard of before. Like, there was specifically gender fluid. The feeling that one's gender shifts over time, be that a short time, like day by day, or a long time, like over weeks or months. I vibed with that pretty hardcore at the time because my gender identity was shifting. It didn't feel like I identified with being a girl. I had this feeling inside me that was like, fuck yeah, I do feel like a dude sometimes, and sometimes being a girl is pretty neat too. So I identified as gender fluid, and I never properly came out as that. I left a note on my bedroom door for my parents to see that went almost completely ignored. It was brought up the one day that I had the note on the door, and then ignored every day after that. But I took subtle steps with this. I changed my Facebook profile to list Elijah as my middle name. Not that anyone ever commented on that, it's just something I did that people were like, okay. I put my name as Elijah on Tumblr. At first, it listed my dead name and Elijah, but I shifted that over to being just Elijah after a while. I started tagging my personal text posts with that name, and it felt pretty good. I liked the idea of being Elijah, which was really tied to the idea of masculinity, and it was freeing in a sense, as I slowly began to realize that I definitely wasn't cis. There were people who laughed it off. I remember, because we had Spirit Week at school, and there was a gender swap day, and everyone around me saw me so much as a girl that I went as much as a guy as I could that day. I bound my chest with ace bandages, which was a terrible idea. I wore a leather jacket, I gave myself a fake beard, and people looked at me, and so many people were amazed with how I looked like a guy, and it was really cool. And from there, I was more comfortable telling my friends, but it was never as big of a matter as it was when I came out as bisexual. It was kind of something I just mentioned in passing, like, I'm totally a dude today. In the last few months of my sophomore year, so it was early 2014, like March. I'm pretty sure it was right after spring break, so it would have been March. We moved from my small town to North Little Rock, Arkansas. I transferred to a much larger school. Like, my small town school had a K through 12 population of about 900 at the time that I left. This high school alone had a student population of over 1,200 when I graduated. People didn't care about who I was as much here because there were more people that you were around. You weren't gonna know everyone's name. So I openly talked about being gay, and it was pretty cool. Like, people barely batted an eyelash at it. I found pretty good friends. At the time, I defaulted to calling myself a lesbian since I never really passed as masculine except for that one day at Spirit Week, which I wasn't gonna make a consistent thing because continually giving myself a fake beard sounded terrible because it didn't even look good. People just didn't think that I could look like a dude. I was open about being gay there, and that led to me finding people who were cool with that. And within a year, I want to say that it was just under a year, so January of 2015, probably, is when I came out to my closest friends as a gender. I'd spent so long forcing myself into a box of gender-labeled female that I was completely divorced from the idea of gender at all, because it just felt wrong. It only took a few months for me from there to feel comfortable with gender again and come to terms with being a trans guy. I just needed that period of time to recollect myself, for people to not call me a girl, where I could be like, yes, I want to go further down this rabbit hole and be a dude. Which is not to say that that's the case for everyone who identifies as agender. It was just the case for me. And being that I was comfortable with these people, more comfortable in my own skin, I told my friends. And eventually, I was able to post on Facebook about it. And on July 10th, 2015, this is the specific post I made. I am a boy. Regardless of what I look like or what I wear, I am a boy. I am not your sister or niece or granddaughter. I am a boy. It's been a long time, I know, but I am a boy. Mistakes will happen and corrections made, but at the end of the day, I am a boy. Whether I physically transition or not, I am a boy. Do not treat me as though I am a girl, I am a boy. Don't look me in the eyes and tell me you can't accept this, I am a boy. I don't care if you don't agree or if it's hard for you. I was the wrong gender and confused for so long. I am a boy. Don't tell me that I'm not or that I'm ungodly. I am a boy. By now you know I'm a boy, but I'll say it once more. I am a boy. No way in hell for my mom to ignore this now. Hell, none of my family could. The members I spoke to on occasion were the first to respond, mostly positively, and even members of my family that I didn't talk to responded well. There was the odd relative who insisted that it was okay to refer to me as a woman because that's how they pictured me in their head, or to annoyingly harass me with those chain messages that are meant for your favorite woman in your life, because they knew me when I was a woman. Hey, at those people, perish. I decided from the generally positive reception of my family to come out at school as well. I wore trans pride flags, and I told my teachers that I was a dude. For the most part, it went pretty well. There were a few that never really got it, and there were a few that got the name right, but the gender didn't connect quite as well. But for the most part, it went pretty well, and I'm really thankful that it went as well as it did. Because if it had gone poorly again, I probably wouldn't be telling this story right now. Today, I'm gay as fuck, I'm proud about that, and I'm a trans guy who's out of the closet, and God forbid that I ever have to go back in. I've been on testosterone for 7 months. I never thought I'd get this far, and just 6 years ago, I was barely beginning to explore my gender identity. I was being ridiculed for who I was. And despite all that pain that I went through to get here, I'm glad I survived it because I've got friends who are amazing, and I get to be more proud of who I am than I ever thought I would have been able to. So again, happy Pride Month, everyone. Even if you can't come out, I'm proud of you, and I hope that one day you can.